Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Policy and Resources Committee. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photographing, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking. Appointment of substitutes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Jill Sarah's here for Jabarias, Sarah Marie is here for Mellorcock, and Alex Kingsley is here for Boosley.
Okay. Thank you. I'll have to be careful with two Alexes that we get the right one. Any declarations of interest?
I declare an interest in agenda item 8, the referral report about Freedom Leisure, proposed fees and charges. I do so as a director of Lower Wick Swimming Pool. I've been advised it's okay for me to stay and vote, but to declare the interest.
Thank you very much. Any other? Karen?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just want to declare that I'm a member at PERD as well. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other hands up. Okay. We haven't any public representations? No? Okay, so minutes of the last meeting, which was the 16th of September. People happy to accept those? Do you want me to go through it page by page, or just take it as read and accurate? All those in agreement? Yep, thank you very much. So I'll sign those off for the record. Which takes us on to item 5, quarter 2 financial monitoring report. So Ray? Oh, Kathy, okay, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the quarter 2 report for 2025-26 and includes the revenue and capital budget forecasts for the year, along with an update on the latest business rates position, earmarked reserves and council tax and business rates write-offs. The overall revenue budget position has improved by 615,000 since quarter 1 to a surplus of 548,000, and the main variances are shown in paragraph 2.4 with further details by service in paragraph 2.5 and by type in appendix 1. Whilst the current forecast position is positive, we need to consider it in the context of the forecast at declining reserves as set out in section 5, along with the financial risks associated with large capital schemes. With regard to fees and charges shown in section 5, there is an overall deficit of just over 300,000. This mainly relates to the closure of the crematorium and the continued pressure on planning fee budgets. Both the crematorium reserve and the income reserve have been utilised to reduce the deficit for 25-26. This position will be considered as part of budget setting for next year. Section 4 on Treasury Management shows a small improvement in forecast, mainly due to holding off borrowing until later than we originally budgeted. Section 5 shows the expected level of earmarked reserves at the end of the year of 8.2 million. And it's worth noting that in Appendix 4, there's a table illustrating the expected reduction of reserves to 3.4 million by the end of 27-28. Section 6 then shows the changes to the overall capital programme since we set the budget in February, and that's shown in Table 3. Further detail by scheme and the funding by scheme is shown in Appendix 4. Section 7 provides an update on the collection fund, and in particular the impact of a recently settled high value challenge on a property which was backdated to April 2017. Taking this into account and other small in-year variances, there is an anticipated deficit on business rates for 25-26 of 1.4 million, and this will be met from the business rates reserve. Finally, in paragraph 7.7, we note the write-offs of business rates and council tax for Q2. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from around the table? Councillor Kinsley.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I say, as someone who's just sort of parachuted into this committee, how easy I found the reports to assimilate and read. So I just wanted to say that. And I've just got a couple of questions. So firstly, I'll just take the straightforward one on the reserves strategy. So you talked about in Appendix 4 that the reserves are tailing down to 3 million. Is that is there a sort of a revised strategy in terms of how to deal with reserves, bearing in mind the forthcoming reorganisation, or is it because we're having to dip into them to keep our annual budgets looking okay? Thank you.
Yeah, just to answer that one, I think some of the use of reserves is sort of planned because we knew we got sort of schemes going ahead. But certainly those couple of items, the business rates and that large refund was certainly not foreseen. So whilst we had got some contingencies, we hope that they would be there for contingencies for, you know, latter years, and it was, you know, something that was unforeseen at that time. And also with the cremation project, you know, there was plans to carry on with cremations during this process. So whilst we had got an income contingency of a few £100,000, again, that was something that we thought we could have there, you know, for another day. So again, those were things that we wouldn't have really wanted to have used in this financial year. The policy in terms of reserves from an officer perspective is that we've got to get the balance right in setting the budget. There are forecast to be, you know, £3.4 million worth of reserves there, which may sound a lot, but with the volatility of things like that going on, it's not really. And until we get the settlement, there are significant cost pressures, as we mentioned there, especially with capital schemes that we've got ongoing, and other things that are unforeseen at the moment. It is a balancing act of trying to make sure that we've got a sustainable budget going forward, and that we, you know, can carry that on into whatever new entity we morph into in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I have a couple of questions in section 2. So point 2.4 lists out where the significant variances are. And so the question on audit costs. So we are facing an additional 205,000 of audit costs to build back assurance, which is not a problem of our own making, and MHCLG is only giving us 40,000 towards it. So do we know how they arrived at that figure and why there's such a discrepancy? And point 2.5, table 1, under governance services, we have 19,000 for members' national insurance contributions. Is that something we missed when we did the budget?
Thank you. So with regard to the audit fees, the reason that there's such a pressure this year is we didn't know until this year that there were additional costs for build back for 24-25, which is work that's ongoing now. And obviously there's additional costs for this year as well for build back. So it's all the different layers of build back work that they're doing to try and get us to a clean audit position within the next 2 or 3 years. I'm happy to supply a breakdown of that charge if you want to see that. How they come up with the grant, I'll pass over.
Yeah, I will have to just confirm exactly what the grant conditions are, but we haven't actually received any money yet, just because of the timing of when our accounts were actually put on the internet. So although they were signed off by audit committee in February, by the February the 28th, because they weren't on the actual internet until, say, the 2nd of March, we've been missed out of things. So we haven't had like the grant conditions and everything directly to us. So we've looked at some of our neighbours about what we might get. And I believe that there may be other tranches going forwards. But it's a big uncertainty at the moment, with auditors liaising with the public sector PSAA anyway to try and work their way through it. So I might have some detail, but I won't have it all yet. But I am told we will get some, because I wrote to them and said, you know, the accounts were signed off in good time. It was just a publication issue at the time.
And then with regards to the members' NI, yes, you could say we missed it. I think it's backdated for a few years, but it obviously became more obvious last year with the change in NI rates. And we have already built that into 26-27.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Kinnersley?
Thank you for coming back to me, Chair. Just a couple of other things I just wanted to ask about as well, if that's okay. So it says in the introduction, so we started the year with, we needed a 0.97 million savings plan, which we have been implementing. And then since then, the position has been, well, I say improving, but you've done, you know, we're doing well in terms of cost control, and it's now at, talking about surplus, if you like, of 0.548 for the outturn at the end of the year. So how will that be dealt with at the year end? You've got sort of, you anticipated and put a budget in place to make those savings. The savings don't need to be as much. So where does that leave us in terms of that difference?
Okay, so yeah, we had the plan of making £970,000 as a financial sustainability plan. We actually overachieved that, but on an ongoing basis, we've only made £778,000. So future years are going to be worse because of that. 25-26 is better for the fact that we did extra grant switches, so we charge more of our sort of normal base budget activities to grants that we've got. We don't know whether those grants will carry on, so we don't know whether we have to do that in future. And that business rates item that I mentioned, that has technical accounting implications, is probably the easiest way, and I don't mean to be funny about that, but it means that there is a one-off surplus of around £300,000 in 25-26, but there's a £1.4 million deficit in 26-27. So it's great that we've got that 500k, but as I alluded to, we do have budget pressures that are forming with capital schemes. So it will be a point that when we get to February's budget setting, we'll have another update in terms of our outturn and another review of all of our pressures, and then it will be allocated as a financing arrangement to whatever those are as a recommendation to P&R and Council at that point in time.
Thank you. I did enjoy going through the report, as you can tell. Business tax, business rates write-off, council tax and business rates write-off, the business particularly was reasonably substantial. Can you tell us a bit more about that? How did that come about? Thank you.
So in particular, the building rates write-off, that was mainly due to insolvency.
Is it worth just saying what is our proportion of it is? So is that our proportion? Because we are the collecting authority, and for business rates we keep a higher proportion than for residential. I don't know how that plays into that figure that you quoted of in paragraph 7.7.
I think, yes, so our share of that write-off is 114,000.
The answer is in the paragraph. So in terms of the total amount being written off of business rates is 286,000, but Worcester City Council's hit, if you like, is 114,000, and it affects the other authorities that get a share of business rates.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I had those figures. It was more kind of how it comes about that we have those sums at all. That's all. Thank you.
I suppose in relation to that, the reason we have a pooled arrangement in the first place is for purposes of resilience. And we had, historically, we had a time when a court case went against, well, not against us, but there was a court case that actually said that newly built doctor surgeries did not have to pay business rates. And all of a sudden, we were about £1.5 million short. And the fact that we had a pooled arrangement saved us from quite a lot of distress.
Thank you. I mean, as always, the out-term position, and this is for Q2, the end of September, is kind of elements of swings and roundabouts. So I think a particular interest is, to me anyway, there are a number of things, is the very significant saving on utilities, over 200,000, or kind of improved finance position. And that's partly largely due to investment, capital investment in a number of our properties with solar panels and other sort of energy saving measures. And that kind of reflects across into the capital programme. So Purdyswell Leisure Centre, that investment in that building plays through in terms of savings in utility costs. Jessie, yeah?
Thank you very much for the report and for all the conversations we've had on various items. Just for, to clarify to the people, would you be able to elaborate on what happened with the Hive and business rates? I'm afraid I know the answer, but I think it would be useful for members to know and understand what happened there.
Okay, so I haven't rehearsed this for a while, but yeah, the Hive, iconic building, the liable party, since it was built, was the County Council. The County Council have been paying the bill on a regular basis. Of course, you'll know better than I do that that building is occupied by the university as well as the County Council. So whatever arrangement between who pays what is between those two organisations, not us. The university submitted a check challenge appeal process, and that was submitted a number of years ago. And then the valuation office came round in August time and went round the building, and then they changed their assessment. So the rateable value for that building did reduce a little bit, but the main issue is that a large proportion of that building now became the liable party for the large proportion was the university, and the university as a charity receives 80% mandatory relief. So let's say the bill was £1 million, they would only have to pay £200,000, whereas the County Council would have paid £1 million. Yeah, if those were those might have been the RVs rather than the actual cash that was payable. So the valuation judgment was there. I spoke to the valuation office to see whether there was anything we could do about clarification or changing anything. There isn't. It is what it is. And the resulting refund that we gave to the County Council with interest was around £6 million. And then the same day we invoiced the university, and the university paid us about £1 million, which was their new bill from April 2017. We had got some money put aside for appeals and things, you know, like the GP surgeries that you referred to. But whatever our estimates, they weren't prudent enough, shall I say, because nobody thought that with the change of occupier has such an impact going back to 2017 list, not just the 2023 listing. So I hope that.
just to confirm, there was absolutely nothing we could have done about that, right?
Absolutely nothing. I tried. I sent screenshots, I sent pictures of the library, the booking arrangements that go on, and the fact that it goes to the county council and not the university, and you know, the valuation office had got floor plans and things like that. So we certainly met with them and challenged, but we weren't in a position to be able to do anything. They'd taken everything into consideration that they need to as part of their valuation processes. They don't look at who occupies the site as such, or the charitable status that the university has.
Yeah, it's the kind of news that you could do without the technicalities and the calculations from afar. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up. So the recommendations are that we note the financial monitoring details, including budget variances and performance indicators for the second quarter ended 30th of September. Note the forecast balances on earmarked reserves at 31st of March 2026. The forecast deficit on the business rates collection fund and the write-offs of council tax and business rates for the quarter ended 30th of September. All those in agreement? Thank you very much. That's all agreed. So the next item is quarter two performance report for 25-26.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So me again. We've got the quarter two performance report. That's there. There's a number of activities, indicators. There's a couple that are red, that just to make you aware, the complaints resolved at stage 1 has dipped below what we'd expect as a target, but just to provide committee with just some assurance that it's only 7 that has been escalated, so it's not as though there are hundreds of complaints that are out there, and CLT do receive quite a detailed analysis of complaints that we get, you know, we get a full PowerPoint deck of the types of things that are going on across the piece, so that there was nothing specific that's there. It was just the nature of the activity that has gone on that quarter. One of the other PIs that is highlighted as red is the voluntary leavers. It's like a 5% sort of turnover rather than the lower target. That 5% represents 15 people. We've looked at those 15 individuals, and there's nothing to give us any concerns that there's something going on in one particular department or anything. Those are 15 spread across the council, and some people, you know, would have been offered, well, everybody's offered exit interviews and things like that. So just to try and provide you with some assurance that there's nothing that we're aware of as any issue, but it does show, you know, a higher turnover in that quarter. Happy to take any questions on any of the other items. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions and comments with regard to performance and the performance card, scorecard? Councillor Mace.
Thank you very much for the report. Just a couple of brief questions, or one brief question, one comment. On the number 1 statement of complaints, I was really glad to see the commentary on the box about where the complaints have come from and the breakdown of the numbers. That's really useful to see, so we understand where people are complaining about. And the other one was just on the energy saving capital investment project. I understand the installation of the panels at St John's Leisure Centre started recently. I just wanted to ask if that is completed now.
Yes, it's practically completed in quarter 3. There's a bit of IT work, I believe, in just getting connections to the portal, whatever that is. I don't know the details myself, but yeah, it's all in hand and all going well. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the extra information about the voluntary leavers rate. Obviously, when you see that kind of spike in the graph, it is of a concern. Obviously, with local government reorganisation, I understand that people, you know, may look for other opportunities. It does leave us a little bit vulnerable. But Lynn and I were at the staff conference today, and, you know, I think there's such teamwork at the City Council, and we need to do our best to keep morale as high as possible during these changes. And the staff conference today, I think, was a really good way of doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, one of the other measures we've got is staff satisfaction. So we are using a different measure now, but that's come out really positive. And I think, as you say, from the staff conferences, actually, there's quite a positive vibe in terms of Worcester City Council is a good place to work, and there are good things going on, but there are always there's a certain kind of turnover rate, isn't there, of people looking for other opportunities or changes in personal circumstances. Jessie?
Just have a quick comment about the measure about the call answer within 90 seconds, and I think that I just want to praise the team because they do an exceptional job in a time where you can't call anywhere and get a response that fast and get an informed, real human being on the end of the line. So I just want to praise them, and I really hope that we are able to protect this as we move forward to a unitary authority and we don't get bots instead of people. Thank you.
Real human beings are very much to be valued, aren't they? Yes. Steve?
Thank you, Chair. I just note that looking at the council tax and business rate collection rates, that our sort of target and actual values follow each other very, very closely. And it just occurred to me, does that mean that we should consider increasing the target?
I suppose with this, council tax is, there's already changes afoot in terms of traditionally your council tax is billed over 10 months, but more and more people now choose to do it over 12 months. So it's sort of fluctuating on that, and then I think there's new legislation which will come in from next year about 12 months being the default. So, you know, it doesn't take a lot to just change that, and it's by having a lot of people on direct debit and things like that as well, it sort of is what it is. I think what we need to look at is the totality of the council tax over a number of years, because you will probably collect, say, 85% of your council tax in that year that it relates to, and then the last 10% will be in future years of backdating. So certainly we can look at, but there's a lot going into that. And it's one of the biggest values in terms of a small amount of cash can change that. And likewise on business rates, you can always look at the target, but it is quite chunky. And I say that in terms of that business rates refund that we gave, just the timing of that would have a negative effect on collection rate. So it's how quickly the valuation office provide new billing data, and then how much time you can give businesses to pay. So it's something, as I say, that we'll look at, but it's the overall figure that I'm mainly concerned about, and that just gives us a bit of a feel about where we are, because I wouldn't want to send hares racing just one quarter. It's dipped a little bit just because of something ad hoc. So it's about finding that balance, but yeah, certainly, yeah, we can look at it.
So do we then have figures separate to this which tell us how much of the value that we did recoup, even if it was in subsequent financial years?
Yes, I look at that on a regular basis as part of a whole suite of information that we collect on council tax and business rates, you know, liabilities by occupier and those sort of trends. So it's about knowing exactly how to run the reports off the FOM system. Now we've gone into the cloud, but there is a lot of data there to look at those sort of trends and that activity, and we build that into our collection rates and our collection rate forecast every time.
Okay, I'm really pleased to see find the right thing. Housing benefit claims that they're being paid more swiftly now. That's really important to the people, the recipients, and the people waiting for it. And that's partly as a result of having brought the service in-house, and I know that officers are continuing to look at ways of kind of improving the system and how that works. So yeah, well done to everybody for that one. I think the whole suite certainly shows that this council, City Council, is managing and delivering on, several big projects as well as the sort of routine performance, so to speak. So yeah, a huge credit, I think, to our senior officers, all officers, and the kind of can-do culture of the council. So formal recommendations, I think we are noting. We have noted, committee, good. Thank you very much. Next item is a consideration of a decision regarding council tax long-term empty homes premium.
Okay, so a number of years ago, government allowed councils to actually charge premiums in a number of circumstances. So instead of somebody just paying 100% council tax, if it was a second home, you could charge premiums. And if that property was left vacant for a period of time, and also instead of it just being, say, 100% premium in 2 years, those could like ramp up so that people are paying a 200% premium on top of their normal 100% bill. Worcester supported those, and those are in place as it stands at the moment. But about 2 years ago, the rules changed, and instead of allowing local authorities to implement the premium for long-term empties after 2 years, we can now actually kick in that premium after 12 months. So potentially it's a way of increasing the pressure on owners to bring that house back into occupation so that people actually just pay standard council tax. Or if they want to keep it empty, we're trying to get additional council tax from those individuals. At the point of, for this report, we'd estimated something like 200 bandy equivalents. Depending on when you run the report, it can fluctuate quite a bit. And as we've got there in the report, there's only about Worcester's share of any council tax collected is only around 10%. So whilst it would be generating potentially £445,000 for the actual sort of county and the fire and the police and us, Worcester's share is just that sort of that £45,000. That's if everything is collected. So it's not all about generating cash on this one. It's nice to have given the budget pressures we've got, but there's an incentive there to get the properties back into use. So it's a decision to be made for P&R and then on to council. But we do need to make a decision because those numbers will go into our tax-based calculations, which then feed into the budget setting process. So happy to take any questions if I can answer them.
Thank you very much. Questions? Richard first and then Pat.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions. And first of all, I welcome the report. I think it's long overdue in many ways. But I'm looking at paragraph 3, and I'm assuming that none of this can be retrospective. We can't charge it backwards, which is a shame. My second concern is actual ability to collect, because a lot of these properties, the owner is uncontactable, and we cannot physically get council tax from them. Sometimes that's been the case for years, if not decades, in some properties which I'm aware of. So I'm concerned about how much we've taken into the equation collection and enforcement, and whether there will be some cases where collection and enforcement may cost more than what is actually owed. And the value of the property will not equate to doing that if we're talking about seizure. Is that a realistic prospect or fear, or am I over-alarmed?
I think never rule it out. And there's certainly properties out there that we would find it difficult to actually find out who the owner is or whatever that case may be. But there are significant number of properties out there that we've got details for and that should be pursued. But I think the situations that you describe are no different whether they're empty or just whatever's going on. I think there's like one property that was paying the bills, but it was just left derelict. So there's bills been paying. And I suppose what we would always look at in terms of debt recovery is it cost effective to do so on an individual case-by-case basis, and that's where there's always an element of sort of non-collection or assumptions, and that's why we've modelled it on 200 Band D rather than the 240 or whatever it was at the time of doing so. It gives us a little bit of yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I was relieved to see there was an element of discretion in the decision-making here, and that's partly because I think we're all aware that about a third of the properties possibly at any given time are likely to be in probate. And that's beyond the control of the potential owners or the future owners, the heirs. So it's quite important that they have that kind of, that we have that discretion to make decisions in that respect, because it's hardly fair to them if they were awaiting probate. And what's the other thing? And the other thing is, as residents might move into care, for example, there are issues around that, and that does take time to resolve. So I'm not sure what the triggers would be in your decision making, but those would be concerns.
There are exceptions, so if that dwelling is being actively marketed for sale or for let, then they wouldn't get the premium, as long as, you know, they're not trying to charge 10 times more than the neighbour. And then there's also protections in there for like armed forces accommodation as well that might have, you know, moved because of that relation. So yeah, probate is one of those type of exceptions that we have to sort of build into account. So those are just standard there. And then there's always an element of discretion under section 13A of council tax, which comes to me on an ad hoc basis. So,
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to support this and bring in much needed additional revenue. I just had a question about how do we identify an empty home? Because I know there's the estimates we mentioned about the 200 homes in there. But how do we identify them, and is this number based on homes we already know about, or are there potentially more out there waiting to be identified?
I'm told of our revenues team have the system that they use, so they're notified when a building is built. Valuation office will allocate it to a banding bills people are written to, and then there's the electoral register as well that goes on. And then you've got officers that have to go out there and potentially have a look at what's going on in that building. You know, a number of years ago, one of the workarounds, well, I shouldn't really say something, but, you know, there's all sorts of things that people do, like, you know, claim single persons discounts, or, you know, whether it's furnished or unfurnished and things like that. So there'll be a mix of data with the electoral roll and what's on the system, and then potentially officers involved at the time as well.
Thank you. Karen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I really welcome this report too. And in the context of empty homes nationally still going up, you know, data says that there's about 542,000 empty homes recorded this year, up by 40,000 since last year. And I know that, you know, this is just City Council, 200 homes, but if everybody in the country takes some action, maybe that will stop going up and perhaps even go down. You know, every empty home is a home that could house a family that's on our waiting list. And if people start appreciating that, maybe we'll get these houses back into occupation sooner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered, will the money raised be ring-fenced for housing initiatives, for example, for social housing?
No, that decision hasn't been made. Council tax is an unring-fence taxation which just goes into the pot to delivering the medium-term financial plan. If the council wishes to outwit that spends, then that's part of a budget setting process. But I wouldn't advocate, you know, doing little bits and bobs on, because it would be of splitting out that whole big council tax portfolio of the money that's generated by the council. So.
And I think, as it says, it's not primarily about raising cash. It's potentially our share is quite a small amount of income. And it is about kind of reminding people that you say empty homes are precious and that somebody could be living in them. It's a lever that we can apply. And I'd like to think that, you know, our housing team, you know, are open to discussion or to, you know, assisting owners to actually look at, you know, putting the home up for rent or making it ready for occupation, and advice on that basis. I'm not seeing any other hands up. I do. Sorry? Okay, can I just have my little moan? Because it really annoys me every time. So we have in paragraph 5.1 the share of council tax from residences goes to which agencies. And West Mercia Police and Crime Commissioner gets 13% of the council tax, which is more money than Worcester City Council get. And I think we are amazing value for money. And if only up. One can hope. I guess we still have to pay for police officers. Okay, Rachel's defending the police. Thank you. Right, recommendation. The committee recommends to full council that from 1st of April 2026, properties empty for 12 months or more be charged council tax, long-term empties premium equivalent to 100% of the council tax, and the Corporate Director Finance and Resources be authorised to agree individual exemptions based on government guidance. All those in agreement? Hooray! Thank you. That's unanimous. Well done. So last item on the agenda is actually a referral report from Communities Committee.
Thank you, Chair. As it's a referral report, I won't say very much at all. Communities Committee considered the report last week and it was unanimously approved. The average increase in fees proposed by Freedom Leisure is 4.7% across the board, so that won't be dissimilar to what officers are likely to bring to members in February as part of our own fee and charge setting. And obviously the proposal has been worked up jointly from Freedom Leisure side and from our end with the lead commissioner for leisure, Alan New. Just a couple of things to point out. There was some clarity provided at Communities Committee. The over 75 swimming membership, which I know has been sacred over the previous years, was £20 a year. We are looking to increase that, or Freedom are looking to increase that to £26 a year. So even though that's a 30% increase, it's still incredibly good value when you consider that that provides access to any public open swimming session throughout the year. And the other thing that members have raised previously was proposals in respect of schools and Worcester Swimming Club. And just to confirm that the proposals that are in front of you this evening, they've been agreed with Worcester Swimming Club. And you'll note that pool hire or whole pool hire with schools, the cost has been frozen. So hopefully that lands well with members as well. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Hannah?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for this report. I've noticed in Gulliver Park tennis courts, there's no way of the public knowing how to book the courts. I've been asking for a number of months for a banner. At the moment, they've got a banner advertising swimming lessons, but nothing to advertise how to book those courts. I'd really value that in terms of maximising that facility, please. Thank you.
Chair, I'll take that back. I know you were talking about better use of the public display boards within the park, but I'll take that back to Alan and see if we can progress that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy with the report and the proposed fees. I hope in future years that with the council's considerable investment in solar panels at Purdswell and St John, and also the renegotiation of the management fee to support the living wage, that there's less discussion in future years in the reports from Freedom about the energy costs and staff costs, because I think we've stepped in and provided considerable funding to support that. The other thing I wanted to comment on from the debate that was in communities was Councillor Amos raised the idea of a discount for people who walk and cycle to Purge as well, and whether that could encourage people to do that more. I think a simpler solution possibly might be to charge for car parking at Purge as well, because it's a very big car park, and then people, if they walk or cycle, don't have to pay that fee. And the car park there is very large, but I know when I go past on, say, a Sunday morning when there's football going on, it's very busy, the car park is very, very full. And with the pump track coming, the demand on that car park will go up even further. And one of the things that comes up most consistently along Bilford Road when I'm door knocking is the amount of traffic on there. So I think any measures that we can take to encourage people to walk and cycle, and I know Freedom Leisure say they support active travel as well, then that would be very welcome indeed. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a suggestion for consideration within overall budget setting for next year. So it's not directly related to this recommendation we have before us now. Okay, thank you. I saw Jessie next.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to welcome Councillor Cooper's comment about the booking of the course, and thank you. I can see on the website that it is a lot easier to book the courts now, and that's something that it comes up quite a bit from residents. But I also want to the support of being able to book on the court, perhaps having QR codes so people can book on the spot if that's possible. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
I'm not on Communities Committee, and maybe somebody who's on there can answer this. There's no indication of the usage of the Freedom Leisure facilities, and whether or not they're at capacity. Will the increase in charges hit demand for the facilities? How are they doing generally in terms of how well our citizens are using the facilities? I wonder if anyone can answer that.
Sorry, say again. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So on the same agenda was the Freedom Leisure annual report. So that's when they presented their performance over the past year. I think they were very proud to inform members that their demand and their membership numbers are back to somewhere close to where they were pre-COVID. Which, nationally, when you compare nationally to a lot of other centres and providers, is a very good position. So I think they were very proud to inform members of that. And there was no suggestion that the proposals within this document were going to stifle that sort of return to performance. So I don't know whether members who were also at committee wish to add anything, but that was the general message.
Thank you. That's excellent news.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at the table on page 49, and most of the listed items have increased by more than CPI. So that's it concerns me that the increases we've seen at Freedom Leisure have often been well above inflation. And I'm also concerned about the split in usage of the pool. There's a lot of, I don't know how much community usage of the pool there actually is at sometimes. There are times when I think that I wonder if the community is getting best value for what they're doing. So that's two concerns really.
Again, Chair, there were no concerns raised at Communities Committee about those potential issues. One of the things that was flagged was that the main increase in Freedom's costs over the last 12 months have been staffing, and there's been some issues around trying to progress staff through pay grades and retain the gap between between bandings, and obviously energy costs. They were the two driving factors in terms of increasing costs. In terms of swimming, I acknowledge Councillor Agar's points, but again, from talking to Alan in particular, feedback around swimming in particular at Purd as well is very positive. So I've not picked up any negative feedback around pool availability between general members and more specific classes. But if there is any particular concerns that you have, Councillor Agar, then more than happy to pick that up with the outside of committee.
Thank you. I mean, I commend some of their programmes. They're doing quite a lot in the summer, their summer programmes, and obviously they've got this free swimming for over 75s, under 16s, so I very much commend that. But what I suppose I'm just a bit concerned about, it almost seems flippant to say, oh, the community can go and swim in Malvern if they want to. Why can't they swim in Worcester when they want to? Sometimes, that access just isn't there.
Chair, I think all I can do is take that feedback back to Alan, and we can pick that up with Freedom, and perhaps we can provide members with actual sort of general member availability as opposed to specialist shut-off sessions.
I guess there's a difference between booked sessions and I know the swimming lessons, and those clubs are book a substantial amount of time and are very much appreciated, and those are well attended, but it is the balance of public open swimming, I guess. Jill?
So I just wanted to say I use that pool on a reasonably regular basis just to turn up and swim. So I'm not in a club or haven't pre-booked, never had an issue.
Thank you. Any other questions around Freedom Leisure charges for next calendar year? Because this will be implemented from the 1st of January to catch all the New Year resolutions of people wanting to get fit after Christmas. So the recommendation for this committee is that we note the recommendation from Communities Committee in respect of the proposed fees and charges for the 2026 calendar year submitted by Freedom Leisure as set out at Appendix 1, and then we will be recommending the fees and charges to Council for full and final approval. All those in favour? Thank you. Okay, so with one abstention, everybody else is in favour. Thank you. So will that go to, it's going to full council next week? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I'm not aware of any other business. No. So declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.